The doors to the laboratory of God's medicine for our minds, biblical secrets for mental health and happiness are open. Therapists and social observers have been telling us for some time now that there will be a socio-emotional impact as a result of our being plunged into a global pandemic. And it's true that our lives have been radically altered for almost 2 years now. Can you believe it? Response fatigue remediation and post-traumatic stress action plans are already underway. I don't know about you, but I have been emotionally and psychologically challenged by this new reality, this new normal that we have become very familiar with. I'm delighted to say that our series, God's Medicine for Our Mind, Biblical Secrets for Mental Health and Happiness, is an opportunity for us to check in and to see how we're doing and to get some practical coping tools. You should have an outline of the entire series if you're here tonight. We will post the online outline and the dates and times at the end of this presentation. If you do not have a copy of the flyer that you wish to share with your neighbors and friends, please put a note in the chat and we will ensure that it is posted so that you will be able to have access to that. Just a few housekeeping items. The room, the doors of the laboratory to God's Medicine for Our Mind will officially open nightly at 6:45 p.m. We will start at 7 p.m. promptly. That means if you're here at 7:01, you're late. We will begin promptly each night. You do not want to miss these very powerful presentations that have been prepared for us at such a time as this. So 6:45, the room is open. 7 p.m. sharp, we will begin. Now tomorrow night, we're going to introduce a opportunity for us to have just a little fun as we go through these series, God Medicine for Our Minds. Tomorrow night, we're going to introduce a fun quiz. We're going to test your knowledge on what our presenter will share with us this evening and what he will share with us on successive presentations. So right now, I am delighted to turn it over right now to our hosts who will be here with us nightly to lead us into our presentation. So I'm delighted at this time to present to you Tiffany Showells and Ms. Jamila Jones.
Good evening, good evening. It is my privilege tonight to introduce to you Dr. David Defoe. Dr. David Defoe is married to his wife, Denise, and is a proud father of a beautiful daughter, Dana. He currently serves as the Relationship Ministries Director of the Allegheny East Conference, which includes ministry to families, couples, men, and singles. He has a Bachelor's of Arts degree in English and Communications from Andrews University, a Master of Divinity degree from the Seventh-day Adventist Theological Seminary, a Master's of Science degree in Counseling Psychology from Bowie State University in Bowie, Maryland, and a Doctor of Ministry degree in Family Ministries from Andrews University. He is currently in the writing stage of completing his PhD in Counseling Psychology from Regent University. Dr. Defoe is a licensed counselor, educator, pastor, and entrepreneur. He is a creative, out-of-the-box thinker, and progressive leader. He believes his unique call in ministry is to live out the socially conscious gospel of Jesus Christ, which he believes is providing comfort to the afflicted and affliction to the comfortable. Please enjoy Dr. David Defoe.
The The pause there must mean that it was me.
No. Actually, you did well, Doc. You did well.
Oh, okay.
We didn't know. We didn't want to bring you up. I almost felt like I should have had a little musical prelude.
Oh, no problem, man. No problem. Is it me? Oh, but it's me, right?
Oh yeah, you're ready.
Okay. All right. Sure. So since you didn't have any music, I'll play some behind me, man. It's good to have. it's good to be with you all. I want to thank specifically your pastor for inviting me. We're gonna have a good time these next 3 weeks talking about mental health. I'm gonna try my hardest not to do much preaching. I'm gonna do some teaching. We're gonna talk through this very important topic that was selected for our contemplation, but it is definitely good to see all of you on. And I'm glad that you as a church have decided that you're going to address this very important topic as it relates to mental health and biblical truths that we can share about our mental health. And so I'm going to get right into it this evening. And of course, as you're on, if you can utilize the chat to talk back to me, I would love that, to have some interaction with you. Let's turn down this elevator music. I would love to have some interaction with you all. So if you're in the chat, just go on and why don't you all shoot something to me and let me know that you're there. But I'm going to ask some questions of you, and I'm going to hope that you all can engage the conversation from your homes, from your offices, wherever you are. I want to make sure that you engage this conversation so that it will not only be informative, but it could also be a little interactive. Now, because it's the Sabbath, because this is church, let me just start off with just a little bit of Bible. Is that all right with you all? Let me just give you all just a little bit of Bible, and hopefully you can see me there hopefully you can still see me there on the screen. There you go. I'll put myself back up. Just a little Bible, if you don't mind, right? Here's the text. John 16 and verse 33 says this: I have said these things to you, that in me you may have peace. In this world, somebody say this is true. I know this is true. In this world, you will have tribulation, right? But the Bible says in John 16 and verse 33, but take heart, I have overcome the world. What the text is telling us is that we're going to have trouble, that some things are going to face us. We're going to have some problems, that life's exigencies are going to catch up with each and every one of us, that if we're alive long enough, we're going to have some trouble, right? Let me give you one more. Isaiah 43 and verse 3 says this: when you pass, my favorite text, every time I talk about mental health, I throw this up on somebody's screen, and it just says this: when you pass through the waters, I will be with you. And through the rivers, they shall not overwhelm you. When you walk through the fire, you shall not be burned, and the flames will not consume you. What God is saying to us is, no matter what goes on, no matter what difficulties we deal with, He promises us that He's going to be with us. He promises us that He's going to be with us even as we struggle with our mental health, even as we struggle with our challenges, even as we struggle with our difficulties. And so I want us to use those two texts as sort of a framework to talk about this idea about myths that we believe about mental health. But before we get into some of these myths, I want to ask you all this question. What do you all think it means to be well? What do you all think it means to be well? To be well, if I were to ask you, what does it mean to be well? What would you tell me? What would you tell me? Just put it in the chat. Well, I'm gonna answer my question in a second, but I want you all to just interact with one another for just a few seconds. If I were to ask you what it looks like, what it sounds like, what it feels like to be well, and now I'm not talking about physically, I'm talking about emotionally, I'm talking about psychologically, where the context is mental health. So what do you all think it means to be well? What is it? What does that mean? What does that mean? And as we talk about this, right, I want to know from you all, how many of you all struggle with mental health? And I know what you're saying. Well, Defoe, what does it mean to have a mental health problem or mental health condition? I'm going to explain this to you in a second. But one thing I want us to understand is, all of us, there is a continuum for all of us. Let me see if I can put myself in a place that doesn't mess up my thing. I can't, so I'm going to take myself off. There's a continuum of well-being for each and every one of us. Every one of us suffers with a mental health condition, a mental health concern. Mental health concerns are those things that just that deal with life's exigencies, that deal with life problems. All of us have stressors in life that rises to the level of a mental health concern. Everyone on this call, no matter where you're listening, no matter how well you're put together, no matter how much you love Jesus, no matter how many gorillas and Boca burgers you eat, for those that ain't Adventist, that's vegetarian food, no matter how much of that stuff you deal with, all of us have mental health. All of us have mental health, right? Now, so if everyone has a mental health concern, when life stressors get to you, when your kids get on your nerves, when your boss gets on your nerves, when your pastor, amen, gets on your nerves, that level of stress rises to a mental health concern. Now, not only are there mental health concerns, but there are also mental health conditions. These are problems that persist in our lives over time, and they're not necessarily situational because those would be mental health concerns. But these mental health conditions are these things that sit with us and are present with us throughout the majority of our lives, right? Okay, I see someone here saying the ability to cope. I like that about what it means to be well. And then this last thing on the continuum of well-being is a mental health crisis, right? And a mental health crisis is anything or any event that impedes one's ability to carry out everyday functioning. Now, when we say everyday functioning, I tell my clinicians this all the time. When we talk about everyday functioning, how is it that what I'm going through interrupts my ability to live my life as I intend to live it, to laugh, to experience the joys, the ups, the downs of life, to love? How does it affect my interpersonal relationships or my relationships, period, and my ability to learn? Cognitively, how do my problems disrupt my ability to go to school, to go to work, to think, to appropriately respond to things that are around me, right? So in the context of all of that, if we take a look at the sort of holistic approach to wellness, and I'm just setting up this series because we're going to talk about and run through all of this stuff for the next 3 weeks together. But as we talk about this holistic approach to wellness, this is what we're talking about. What does it mean? This question that I asked you, what does it mean to be well? Here's the answer. If we were to take a look at this holistically, if we were to take a look at the continuum of our lives, right? Don't worry. You shouldn't come on here chewing gum because then you just may swallow it. Whew. Oh boy, no one's in the office with me, Jimmy, to give me the Heimlich neither. So I better just get this stuff together right now. All right. So as we take a look at a holistic, I'm sorry, I don't know some of you all, but I like to have fun. And I know we're in the virtual space. So just go on and laugh in your living room or suck your teeth and tune me out also. I wouldn't even know. So all right. So I take a look at this holistic idea of wellness. We look at it in these 8 spheres. Emotionally, right? This is my ability to cope with life and creating satisfying relationships. Well, how do I make sure that I can handle not only my emotional self, but my financial self? I may be unwell if I can't pay my bills. I may be unwell if I can't afford to go get food when I need to go get food. All right. So we take a look at it as emotional, financial, physical. I have to have some ability to wake up in the morning, to deal with the aches and pains that I have. I have to have the right amount of exercise, nutrition, right? Sometimes our state of well-being could be environmental, right? Where I find myself. It could be social, who I take myself around, right? It could also be occupational. How many of you all know if you don't like your job, sometimes it raises your blood pressure, it raises other problems. Some of it could also be occupational. And then this last one here, how do I look at wellness from a spiritual standpoint as well, right? How do I expand my sense of purpose and my meaning of life, right? So as we talk about this idea of wellness, this is sort of the context. So these are some of the things that we are talking about, right? So how is it that we as a people talk about people who may be unwell? How do we talk about people? What are some of the ways that we talk about individuals who are mentally unwell? Well, if you had someone in your family or in your neighborhood, around you, your community, that was suffering with a mental illness, what are some of the words and nomenclature that we use to describe them, right? Anyone ever called someone crazy before? Anyone ever said to someone, well, you know, they're, man, anyone ever said to someone that, oh man, the elevator don't go to the top floor? Right? So sometimes what we do is, and the reason that we have these conversations, especially in our in our spiritual spaces, is so that we can help manage the misinformation that is out there. We can help manage some of the apprehensions that people have about individuals who may be struggling with their mental illness. It also is a way to sort of remove some of the stigma that is attached to mental illness. So it's important for us to have these conversations, especially in the church, because it's very important for us to be able to minister to people that are in our neighborhoods, to minister to people that sometimes we reject. Someone said, 2 fries short of a happy meal. I like that one. All right. So one of the things that I want us, as we talk about this idea, and I wanted to title this particular presentation this evening, Mythbusters. And to tell the truth, many of us, we believe things that aren't true. Come on. And I'm not talking about people who, who believe all kinds of off the wall, crazy conspiracy stuff. But some of us, we have myths or misguided ideas about certain things that we've carried along with us for a very long time. One of my favorite shows used to come on the Discovery Channel, I think they've canceled it now, was called Mythbusters. It was an Australian and American show. But one of the things that liberated me, or one show that liberated me, was a show that they did on swimming and eating. Now, how many of you all, when you all were kids, were told that you couldn't eat and then go swimming? Anyone ever was told that? So me and my mother, we had to have a real heart-to-heart conversation after I saw this particular version of Mythbusters, because for some reason, my mom, who's from Florence, South Carolina, and so, you know, some of those individuals who grew up down there in the South, they believe some things, old wives' tales. And my mom grew us up to believe that if we ate, we had to wait an hour before we can go swimming. So there I would be on the side of the pool watching my friends, and I would be dry and salty because I couldn't be in the water enjoying my time with them, because my mom ingrained into me this myth that you can't go eat and then go swimming. But for many of us, we carry around these ideas or these misconceptions of people based off things that we heard or based off one negative experience. And I think one of the things that we can do in order to be on the front lines of helping individuals that are struggling with their mental illness or struggling with a mental health condition, or you yourself may be struggling, I want you to understand that you're not alone. I want you to understand that we have some misguided nomers about individuals who are struggling with their mental health. And I wanted to at least come to debunk some of them to provide us with a context for what we're going to talk about these next couple of weeks. Is that all right? So let me share with you all some of these myths, and you all tell me if you all have heard any of these, right? Tell me if you've heard any of these, some common misconceptions about mental illness, right? Here's one. People with mental illnesses are violent or dangerous, right? This is one of the most debunked myths or misconceptions about individuals who are struggling with mental illnesses that are out there. People who are struggling with mental illness are not more violent or are not more dangerous than other people. That is completely and utterly false, right? Okay, here's another one that I think some of you all may be able to resonate with. And also, as we go through these, it's important for us to know, especially as a household of faith, how to talk differently about mental illness so that we don't push out people who are coming to us who may need some help. Are we there together? All right. People with mental illness need medication. All right. That is not necessarily true because, of course, there are some individuals who benefit from medication management based off some of their presentation or their pathology or their diagnoses, right? However, there are some people who are struggling with things like anxiety or depression. You all know those are mental illnesses, right? They don't necessarily all of them need medication. So just because you struggle or you're labeled with having a mental illness, it doesn't mean necessarily that you need medication or you need to be taken to the hospital or you need to be locked up or you need to be put in a padded room in a straitjacket. That's not what that means, right? That's the movies. That's not life. All right. Okay. Here you go. Here's another one. Mental illness is a sign of weakness. Mental illness is a sign of weakness. As a matter of fact, individuals that can admit that they have problems or challenges, that's actually a sign of great strength. Right? All right. Just because you're mentally unwell, and one of the things that we need to make sure that we as a church and a faith community, and even if we're not the household of faith, we have to make sure we're intentional about making people understand and realize that all of us, we struggle with something, that mental health is simply just health. Right? It's not always indicative of our choices. It's not always indicative of our circumstances. We didn't smoke something that made us act off. We didn't go somewhere, or something wasn't done to us that made us act a certain way. For some people, their health or their concerns are just the same. Like you would go get blood, like you would go get your blood pressure taken, and your blood pressure is high, or you go and you have diabetes. No one looks down on you because you have diabetes or you have cancer. No one says, well, you know what, we don't know how to deal with you, or we don't know how to work with you because you have a broken arm. Well, we have to start looking at mental health as if it is just another health issue, because here it is. It is. All right. All right. So here's another one. This is for the church folk out there. If you know or have a relationship with Jesus, you should not suffer with mental health concerns. So if you know Jesus, you should be all right. This also is for those people who say to themselves, I may not need a therapist, but I could just pray away my problems. This is also for those people who believe that coming to church is enough, that I can come off my medication, but as long as I get to Sabbath school on time, I'll be okay. Right. This is for you all. The truth of the matter is, just like you can still get cancer and still love Jesus, and Jesus still love you, just like you can get diabetes and God still love you, you can struggle with depression. You can struggle with ADHD. You can struggle with anxiety. You can struggle with schizophrenia, with a paranoid, with paranoia. You can struggle with OCD. You can struggle with all of these things and still know and have a relationship with Jesus, right? Your relationship with Jesus has nothing to do with the fact that you can't deal with life's exigencies sometimes, that you need help from some source sometimes, right? And so for many people, they believe that they can just pray away their problems, or they can go to church and they can lift their hands, or they can go to worship for their daily fix. But you know what one thing COVID did to us? It stopped us dead in our tracks of belief, or of using church and using religious services as a crutch and not as authentic relationship. And so I think it's very important for us to understand as a household of faith that we have members, or we have people that come into our spaces that are struggling with mental health challenges. We have people that are a part of our church, people that are a part of our families that are struggling with mental health conditions or concerns or going through mental health crises. And it has nothing to do with their level of faith. It has nothing to do with their prayer life. It has nothing to do, some of it, mind you, nothing to do with their prayer life. Nothing to do with them needing to come to church and pray more. For some people, their mental health conditions or their mental health concerns are a result of their normal health symptoms. Here's another one. Last one I'll share with you all. Mental health problems last forever. So if I've ever been diagnosed with a mental health problem, I'm going to have it for the absolute rest of my life. This is completely false. There are many people that if they're depressed, they get the right coping strategies, they get the right for some of them medication, they get the right therapist, and they're able to navigate that. The anxiety that they have, they're able to get beyond that. All right. So I want you to know or understand that just because someone is experiencing a particular mental health crisis, it doesn't mean that it's over for them. There is recovery from that. There is healing from that. There is growth from that. But it requires work. It requires support. It requires us going along with our brother or our sister or that person that finds themselves in those circumstances that they can't manage or can't find the coping strategies to deal with at that time. It takes the support, but absolutely 150% we can heal from some of our mental health conditions or our mental health concerns, right? So just remember, as I mentioned, we're going to set up the context of what we're going to talk about for the remainder of these 3 weeks. And so I just want to put up just a few mental health statistics for you. I call this section mental health by the numbers. And for those of you whom I'm boring right now, just hold on. I'm almost done. All right. All right. So mental health by the numbers, mental health by the numbers. How many of you all can get with this statistic here? 1 out of 5, let me move my face off the screen. 1 out of 5 adults that mental illness affects 1 out of 5 people. This is not just adults, this is people in the United States. 20% of individuals in the United States suffer with a mental illness. Let me just let that sit. So for those of you who think that it is so uncommon, for those of you that think that it is so, all that means is there are people out there that are struggling and you just don't know that they're struggling, or they haven't told you that they're struggling. And then for those of you who are struggling, know this: you are not alone. You are not alone. I'm going to say it one more time. You are not alone. And here's the other statistic. 1 in 25 adults experience a serious mental illness in any given year that substantially interferes with one or more of their major life activities. Life activities, their ability to live, laugh, love, to learn, right? Okay, 1 in 25. All right, let me give you this next one. So we talked about this, 1 in 5 adults, 1 in 25. How many of you all know that 17% of our young people ages 6 to 17 suffer with mental health conditions or mental health concerns? 17%, right? Now, I'm going to put up this next slide and and this is going to sort of blow your mind, right? So this is for those that say our children have nothing in the world to be bothered with. This is for those people that say, oh, well, you got a roof over your head and you got food in your belly and you don't got to go to work and all that kind of stuff. What do you have to worry about, right? Let me hit you with this. These are the statistics specifically on children. 50% of all lifetime mental illnesses begin by the age of 14. I'm going to say it again. By the age of 14, 50% of mental illnesses begin, right? By the age of 24, 75% of all lifetime mental illnesses begin, right? So we know that specifically, and today's not the day we're going to talk about anxiety, but we know specifically that anxiety in children oftentimes occurs before the onset of anxiety in 50% of the children occur before the age of 17. We know that, right? So when we say that 75% of all mental illnesses occur before the age of 24, that's a big number, right? That 19% of the US adults with mental illnesses also experience a co-occurring disorder of substance use. What this tells us is there's many people that are struggling with their mental health conditions, and they seek help not from professionals or not from people that can assist them professionally, but they seek help from some substance that helps them dull or nullify the pain that they're experiencing in that moment. So if I'm experiencing grief, if I'm experiencing anxiety, if I'm experiencing depression, if I have social anxiety, oftentimes, if I could get me some liquid courage, alcohol, if I can get me something to smoke, then I can deal with that. I can deal with the situations that come because I'm not in my right or stable mind. I'm able to dullen the apprehensions that I have. I'm able to eliminate from me the fear of being in public, the fear of doing something. All right. And so 19% of those who struggle with a mental illness in this country also have a co-occurring disorder of substance use. Right. This is the most shocking statistic that the National Association of Mental Illness puts out. And this is the most disturbing, that for individuals who are suffering with a mental health condition, it takes them, and on average, 11 years. Let me say that again. 11 years before they seek help. Now, how many of you all know, now they don't release the number of what it is in our community, but in our community, it's almost 18 years before we seek professional help. Why? We got to be honest, we have a built-in mistrust of the health system sometimes. However, oftentimes we go to places that aren't really the appropriate place to get the help, or the places that we go to, AKA in our community, the Black church. Oftentimes, what will they tell you? They'll tell you to pray about it. Well, let's go get some oil and let's go anoint it. No, we need to tell people, no, let's get you some professional help. Let's get you a psychiatrist while I pray with you, right? Let's get you a therapist while we study the Bible, right? Yeah, y'all with me? Okay, I know y'all can't talk back to me. All right, anyway. All right. This is also, I'm going to take my face off the screen. Now let me put me in the corner. Yeah, there you go. This is also another graphic that, or another set of statistics that is released by the National Association of Mental Illness. And here it is, right? This is the 12-month prevalence of common mental illnesses in the United States. Now, for those of you who associate mental illness with people who hear voices, with people who have a personality disorder or a split personality disorder, you know, how like the movies like to tell us. For those of you who believe this, this is here to debunk your belief. Only 1% of those individuals who suffer with mental illnesses, only 1% of the US population has schizophrenia, but 20% have a mental illness, right? Only 1% have a borderline personality disorder. Only 3% have a bipolar disorder. You know, those individuals who have their ups and downs, who sometimes we're overly afraid of because they can get out of control at times. Those people that they tell us that they have these myths that they're somehow dangerous, right? 3%. 7% of the US population suffers with depression. 1% with an obsessive compulsive disorder, right? And then I want you to see this last one. I'll take me off the screen for this. And this is the 12-month prevalence of any mental illness in the United States. We already talked about this one number, right? 16%, if you go down to that third line, of Black adults in this country suffer with a mental illness. 17% of Hispanics or Latinx individuals, 22% of Native Indians, right? Take a look at that last number. 37% of lesbian, gay, and bisexual adults suffer with some amount of mental illness, and oftentimes that is tied to how people treat them in their decision-making, how people treat them as they identify themselves, right? And so the reason that I wanted to share with you all these things, and I'll put up this last graphic here, and these are just the most common mental illness or mental health conditions in the United States. I wanted to share these things with you all to provide sort of a backdrop or a context as we're going to talk about these other issues, because I think it's very important. It's almost downright mean and evil for us to treat individuals just because they're struggling with a mental health condition or mental health illness as if they're beyond help, as if something is wrong with them. And so I think it's important for us to get this understanding that many people are struggling with their mental health conditions, their mental health concerns. With COVID, all of us have a mental health challenge and a mental health concern. Life for each and every one of us have changed. For many of us that have experienced grief or loss during this time, there is no such thing as normal to go back to. And I want you to understand that just like how COVID came and interrupted everything for us, there are many people that have lived their entire lives with exigent circumstances interrupting their entire equilibrium. It could be through trauma or PTSD. It could be because there's challenges in how their brain begins to misfire. It could be through psychotic disorders, schizophrenia, all kinds of things, alcoholism, addictions, all kinds of things have altered people's individual lives. And many of us, especially in the household of faith, if we could look into ourselves, and realize that we are not that far from where other people are, that for many of us, it's only by the grace of God that we are in our right mind. And for some of us, we think we're in our right mind, but we're really not, right? But it's only by the grace of God that we're in our right mind. Because truthfully, if God would take his hand off of some of us, we would lose our ever-loving mind. For many of us, we're depressed, and we're not depressed because we lack faith. We're depressed because there's some things that are going on and we don't have the ability to cope. There's some of us that don't want to be around other people because we're afraid or because we have anxiety. There's nothing wrong with that. But I want to just encourage you all that for everyone who's listening, if you need to figure out a way to get some help, someone to help you guide you through these issues, yes, being in spiritual spaces will allow you to grow in the grace and the gift of God. But for many of us, we need to sit down on someone's couch, sit down on someone's chair and walk through the things that we've carried deep within us. There's some of us, especially those that may look like me, we carry secrets. Our families are toxic and sick and dysfunctional because of the secrets that we keep. Not because of the lack of money or not because of the lack of any opportunity. It's because we don't share the truth about what we're going through, about what we're thinking, about what was done to us, about what happened to us. And so instead of sharing information, we instead see cycles repeat. We instead see from generation to generation the same exact thing repeat down the genealogical line. And so I just want to encourage you all this evening that if you need to seek help, seek help. And then by all means, we're going to unpack some of these other challenges that individuals are having. And I'm going to do my best to sort of help us develop a theological understanding around these issues so that we can not only be a help to those that are in our spaces that are struggling with these issues, but that we can make our sacred spaces a safe space for the community to come in, so that when someone comes into our doors and say to us, you know what, I'm not okay, we're able to pull them in and love them and appreciate them for their experience and not shun them because we don't know what to do, or not push them aside because we think somehow we can't eat and swim right after each other, right? I want us to understand that we know that God has promised us as we go through our difficulty, as we go through our challenges, he'll never leave us. He'll never forsake us. That when we pass through the waters, he'll be with us. The water won't overtake us. The fire won't burn us. He's promised us that. And so I want to encourage you all, if you're struggling and you need help, get the help. And then by all means, as we go throughout through the course of these next 3 weeks, invite someone who may need to get some of this information and inspiration so that they too can seek help, can seek wholeness, and so they can believe that just because I'm struggling with not being able to manage life, it doesn't mean that God is not with me. It doesn't mean that I'm not within God's will.
Amen.
For many of us, we have to debunk that myth, and we have to make sure that individuals know that there's nothing that they can do, that there's no life exigency that they can deal with, that God cannot cover. But we can't just use God as a crutch. We need to then also go do something. We need God and we need our therapist. We need God and we need some medication, some of us. And that's okay. That's all I got for this evening. I guess I'll see you all tomorrow at 7:00 as we continue with this series.
Amen. Amen. Someone put in the chat, now this is real ministry. I've been very, very excited in anticipation of this series beginning because I know it's going to be dynamic. And I can tell you, based upon the presentation tonight, the foundation that has already been laid, it is going to be a highly informative and beneficial series. Dr. Defoe has been a part of a administrative advisory team that have been carefully looking after the pastors and the workforce of the Alleghenies Conference, ensuring that as we have weathered through this pandemic, that the language that they use is wounded healers. But they have been very, very sensitive to unique pastoral stresses, and they've been looking out for us. Dr. Defoe has a rich resource page with a lot of very, very valuable information. And Dr. Defoe, I'll never forget that one of the clinicians that became a part of the effort to ensure that the pastors are healthy, he said to us, pastors, pray, but take your medication. Pray, but take your medication. And so I am delighted that we have one of the finest young clinicians developing in the church right now to be with us in this series. Now, I want you to know we're richly blessed. And the reason I can say that is I have taken some time to go on his his website, and we could not afford professionally to get the kind of services that we're going to be getting over these next few presentations. So I am just absolutely delighted to have Dr. Defoe with us. Now, what we're going to try to do, you can see the time is wonderful. We're going to stick to a rigid time schedule. Dr. Defoe will bring us the meat, the substance of the presentation, and that's why you have gathered. We want you to have that, but you will have questions. And so I want you to begin to prepare now to place your questions in the chat. If you want to write them down and bring them back tomorrow night, please put your questions there, and we will try to carve out some time so that Dr. Defoe will be able to field some of those questions and to get back to you. This will pretty much, ladies and gentlemen, be our schedule. We'll get right down to business and give you again the sum and the substance of this most important presentation, and we are preparing to get you out in a timely fashion. The room, again, for those who may have joined us a little bit late, the room will open at 6:45 p.m. Nightly based upon this schedule, and we will begin at 7 p.m. I just see someone in the chat who has joined us, Dr. Defoe, all the way from the beautiful sun-kissed island of Bermuda. And so our reach, as it has been in a number of our series, is quite extensive. And so 7 p.m. we will start. If you arrive here at 7:01, you're late. You may miss something. So we're going to get you in on time, and we're going to get you out on time. Now, if you do not have a copy of the series in electronic form, perhaps you want to share it with your neighbor or friend, just put it in the chat, and we are going to ensure that you get a copy of that. Our numbers look great tonight. You can give yourselves a hearty amen. Our numbers look great this evening, and we thank you so much for that. And we take that as a signal that you place value on this most important presentation and event, and we thank you so much for that. So look forward to have fun. You can see that Dr. Defoe is a highly trained professional, but he also has a very sharp sense of humor, and enjoys having fun. So I'm just looking forward to having a great time. Do I see a little hand clap back there in the back? Thank you so much for that. I'm looking forward to having a great time during this series. Now, I can tell you right now, you will hear me say each evening at the end of the presentation, and Dr. Defoe laid the foundation for us. And so you're going to hear me say, beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and be in health, even as your soul prospers. And that not only includes our physical health, but it also includes our emotional and our psychological health. So here we go. Beloved, I wish above all things that you may prosper and continue to be in health, even as your soul prospers. Heavenly Father, we thank you so much for this gathering tonight. Thank you for this rich and wonderful information that has laid the foundation for a magnificent journey that we have begun. I want to ask your blessings into every heart and to every home tonight. And thank you so much again for those of you who have gathered. In Jesus' name, amen. All right, everyone, good night. We look forward to seeing you back on tomorrow night. So our schedule is Friday, Saturday, Sunday. And so you will see the schedule posted there. Have a great night, and we look forward to seeing you on tomorrow night. I'm going to ask our team and Dr. Defoe, if you still are with us, just to hang by for 1 minute after, and then we'll talk for a second and we'll be done. All right. Good night, everyone. God bless you. Okay, I still see a few others who are signing off. Great to see everyone. All right, media team, we are still live recording. Can we close?